All right, so the NBA instituted some new rules on tampering. I'm going to read you here the details. I want to get your point-by-point reaction to this. Annual random auditing of 5 teams' communications with rival front offices and player agents, along with the league having the mandate that it can, quote, undertake more in-depth investigations where cause exists. This sounds like a landmine. How do you pick the 5? You say they're random, but how do you pick which 5?
Wait a minute.
You know what
So this is like phone tapping? Why? This is wiretapping?
No,
this is forensic scrubbing of people's computers and emails and all of that?
Text messages, the whole thing.
Isn't that like
So what they're not doing is this. They're not going as far as to say player to player because they know they can't enforce that, right?
Right.
So players sitting down in Vegas or wherever,
Sure.
They're not going to do that because they understand that's not enforceable. Here's another thing. There was a rule that was pitched that if an agent talks to you before the trade deadline window opens, you have to report him immediately or else you're fined some amount of money. Report him immediately for talking to you. And they also didn't do that because they were like, look, that's not realistic. Who's going to ruin their relationship with some agent? You know?
Correct.
So they tried to make this as realistically enforceable as possible while still trying to
I don't know that the answer to
make
that is
tampering not out of control.
First of all, you can try all you want with the tampering. They're always ahead of the rules. It's like steroids, right? They're always ahead of the test, bro. So you're not going to stop the tampering. I do have concerns on a lot of levels about the NBA coming in and saying, "Hey, we want to look through your computer. We need to check out all the emails that you got."
Why? Do you have something to hide?
I might have any number of things to hide. I mean, it might not have anything to do with tampering.
Like
my life, maybe I don't want you combing through my life.
So don't do your life on your work computer.
That's a good point. But what about my cell phone?
What about your cell phone?
Well, it's my cell phone.
Delete all the pictures you don't want them to see. And
I just have a problem. Look, I hear what you're saying. I think that's a line that you don't want to start crossing, where you're saying, hey, man, everybody in the office, you walk into the office, everybody drop your phones, and the FBI's here, essentially. Everybody drop all your electronics in the bin. We'll give them back to you at the end of the day. We'll comb through all your stuff.
Right.
I don't want, the NBA shouldn't be operating like that.
I'm in favor of it because before you had these tampering rules that weren't being followed.
Right.
And I remember the prevailing notion was if you're not cheating, you're not trying, which is BS. Like, dude, if you're going to have rules, have them enforceable. Like, I remember when Mitch Kupchak was on his way out with the Lakers.
You can't do that.
Then why have the rules? You have to have the rules. Mitch Kupchak said, I will not cheat like that. That is because he was from the old school where they didn't cheat, right? And so he got screwed there on the way out, and he spent all that money on Luol Deng and Mozgov. And people were saying, this dude is... he's a has-been. We need a cutting-edge guy because he refused to break those rules. And now if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Enforce the rules if you're going to have them.
Listen, this has gone on forever. This is not a new thing. People have, behind closed doors, communicated, tried to figure out. The last time I was a free agent, I had a list of, my desired destinations, and I had heard from 8, 9, 10 teams before the season I was playing even ended. As to whether or not they would have interest and what level of interest they would have, via my agent. It happens, man. I don't know that whatever rule you put in place is going to stop it. And again, I would make the case that whatever rule you put in place, agents, players that are desiring an outcome are going to figure out a way to skirt around those rules and get it done. I don't know that you're solving the problem here with the NBA. I appreciate you looking at it and saying the optics of this are not good. Right? The way it's playing out in the media and the way it's not a good look.
It's obvious.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a stance on it. I just don't know that you can really affect huge change with this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my two of the takeaways from it are, one, we talked about when the Doc Rivers interview came, or when the Clippers thing came out last week, and they were talking about how the Clippers gave Kawhi a list of players he wanted to play with, and he said, I want to play with Paul George. First of all, how do you stop Kawhi Leonard and Paul George from being buddies and wanting to play together? You don't. And secondly, look, we just showed the odds for the title. Isn't this the most excited people have been? This is the first time in, a decade that we're not walking into the year knowing who's going to win a title if Kevin Durant.
Because of tampering, right?
Right, but I'm saying it's the most excited people have been for years, and it's the most wide open the league's been for years. It's probably going to be the most competitive season we've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
cares?
ultimately-
Like, who cares if
ultimately it's-
tampering?
ultimately
if
it's not a
tampering
huge problem.
if tampering
Correct.
caused that, then who cares?
Right. So they want to keep tampering rules in place because the small markets get paranoid that our stars are going to get poached,
Listen,
right?
your small markets, they're leaving you anyway. If
Yeah, I
you don't
guess
build
so.
a championship within the window of time that you got them on the rookie deal, for the most, they're leaving you if they're stars.
Regardless.
Right? That's the way. That's life, man.
Yeah.
Like that transcends sport, right? That could, you talk about, any number of things, man. Like, you're a decent looking dude, right? Like, you got a girl, you're overachieving a little bit, man. Somebody else rolls around better looking, more money, like that, you're probably gonna lose that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Like, it happens in every facet of life. Like, you're not stopping it with the tampering rule. That's what I'm saying.
Here's another thing. The maximum fine for tampering is $10 million. Does that go against your cap? Or is
Yeah,
it's a good question. Or is the $10 million just part of the price of doing business?
I don't know.
We're talking to Giannis.
Does it bring a championship?
All right, there's one more rule. There's two, but we're going to focus on this one. Teams have to turn in their starting lineups 30 minutes prior to games. It's to increase transparency for teams, media, and fans.
Sweet.
And I think it's because of gambling and fantasy.
That's probably a better take, because I don't even know how. I mean, competitively, like, yeah, I would want to know if your best player is starting, but realistically, if I missed that because it was 10 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes, I'm like, I just got to get my, you get up and get in the game. It's not anything that's going to cost me any major amount of points. So probably has more to do with gambling than anything else.
Who do you think is going to have a big problem with it?
Maybe maybe there's a guy looking for aftermarket seats to a game or something like that, and he's waiting to see if LeBron is, you know what I mean? I don't know, something like that. But for a competitive edge, I don't see how this makes any difference. Really. Yeah.
So does it just put a pressure on the coach to come up? No, he knows.
No real pressure. He knows the lineup.
He knows it.
Yeah.
So why hasn't it been released earlier than 10 minutes
I don't know.
prior to this?
I don't know. Like, we're dealing in, like, these are all stupid.
I mean, I'm trying to think, like, who would have an issue with this? Greg Popovich?
Maybe. Again, this is something that really has no impact on anything that you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's just gambling. It's the fact that the NBA is one of the leagues that's sort of, progressive on that issue, on the gambling issue. And obviously who's in the game has a huge impact on what the money line is, what the spread is, what the total is.
Right.
So, they want it to be out. I think this is a pretty clear case of that. And those are the rules that will be instituted. I don't know when they're going to actually go in place. They're probably immediate. And there's a change on traveling as well. The verbiage around traveling will also be revised. Will probably hurt James Harden's game just a little bit.
See, James Harden, though?
Changing the game.
And
he is changing rules.
He is case in point that, like, he is going to find your new rules, and he's as good as there's been at doing it.
Dude.
And he's going to figure out a way to be right in that gray area where you don't know exactly what to do with that, and there's no verbiage to describe what he's doing.
Correct.
And he's going to get away with it. Dude, and that's a credit to him.
If he doesn't win a championship, what a legacy. Like, to have multiple rules because of you.
Because of you.
Right? Like the going up and leaning in rule to foul, and then this rule.